أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال علي بن الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام وأما حق اللسان فإكرامه عن الخناء وتعويده على الخير وحمله على الأدب وإجمامه إلا لموضع الحاجة. صلوات بيجي محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Continuing with the Risalat Al-Huquq and the Huquq that our fourth Imam has explained in this Risala, in these treaties, we turn our attention towards the third right. First Imam spoke of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we went into details of that. Second was the right of insan's nafs, or soul, or self, and we talked about the different types of souls in that regard. The third right now, after discussing these two, Imam discusses the rights of our body parts. And first, he discusses the right of our tongue. And there's no surprise that Imam begins with the tongue. And inshallah, we'll look into the details as to why Imam chose the tongue to be the first that he wants to speak about in regards to the rights that should be taken out. He says, and the right of the tongue is that you consider it too noble for obscenity. Consider it to be noble. It's very noble, and you should not be any obscenity used in order to consider this tongue to be something very, very noble, and obscenity should stay away from it. Accustom it to good, direct it to politeness, do not use it except in situations of needs and benefits of the religion and this world. And refrain from meddling in which there is little to be gained, and there's no security from its harm that accompanies its small benefits. It is the witness to and the evidence of the existence of the intellect. The demonstration of an intelligent person's intellect is through his reputation of good speech. And there is no power but in God, the High, the Great. These are the words of our fourth Imam in Risalat Al-Huquq when he discusses the rights of the tongue. Let's elaborate on what Imam is trying to say over here. The first thing that Imam is telling us is that consider this tongue to be noble. The same way you hold someone very high and you regard someone too much and you consider them to be noble, how you do not want to attain or associate any obscenity with that individual. Whether it's an individual, whether it's something that you possess which is considered to be very noble. So for example, we consider Ma'asumin to be noble in our eyes. We consider the book of Allah to be very noble in our sight. And therefore, we cannot associate, no matter how much we try, because Quran itself has said, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is He who wants to keep any type of obscenity or rijs away from you, O Ahlul Bayt. So no matter how much we try to associate any sort of evil with them, there's no way possible. The same way, Imam is saying the tongue is also noble. Keep all the obscenities away from this tongue because Allah has created it to be very noble. Our tongue is our greatest blessing. Again, I'll keep the time in mind and I'll try to be as concise as possible. Undoubtedly, the tongue and the ability to speak is the greatest gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now when we will start discussing this tongue, we'll see that God has bestowed on mankind and on His creation, and this is absolutely a gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given especially to human beings. Now there are other creatures who possess this tongue, but they do not have the same capability of utilizing it the way insan is able to use it. Therefore we see in Quran, in Surah Rahman, it says, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَّمَهُ الْبَيَانِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created man, He has taught him speech and intelligence. So bayan comes from this tongue. Obviously, when you don't have this tongue, you do not have this bayan. And even without this tongue, people have this bayan, and that is why the translation over here is intelligence or the intellect. We see that speech has been described as meaning and if you want to look at the linguistic, the way they describe it, to uncover in Arabic, something that uncovers other things. Our tongue expresses our inner thoughts. If it wasn't for this tongue, you would not know what this person feels, or this person whom you're speaking to, has these thoughts. Our speech uncovers the inner thoughts, our inner thoughts, and expresses what we think. Without this tongue, we will not be able to express what our mentality, what our thinking is. If it was not for our ability to speak, we would be quite just like animals, and there would be no discussions, explaining, or understanding among the men. And that is the reason it distinguishes between mankind and the other creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see different languages is considered to be a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you see different people speaking different languages, it is in fact a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is considered to be min ayatihi, among the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As he says in Surah Rum, verse number 22, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That he says, and among his signs of the creations of heaven and the earth is the variations in your languages. The fact that you have different languages should not be the cause of your dispute and discord and disunity. Rather, it should be a cause of your harmony and unity, because it is considered to be among the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the last word that he says, فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Verily, in that are signs for those who know. Alameen. Allah is talking about every single individual. This clearly expresses that the existence of various languages, various colors, races, because Allah said not just al-sinatikum wa alwanikum aydan. He said ikhtilafu al-sinatikum wa alwanikum. Surah Rum, verse number 22. So your color, the races, and the languages in the mankind is one of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So language as a means of getting to know one another. That's the best way of understanding one another. When you don't know another language, you acquire that language, and that becomes a skill, knowing another foreign language. And that's why we were blessed that we were grown up or brought up in a house where we were already speaking our mother's tongue. And in this environment that we grew up in, we started speaking the language of this land. So as it is, I remember and I can recall that among my friends in school, when they found out that I could speak another language, it was something which was taken as an honor for them, a surprise to them, that you're able to speak two languages at the same time. You're able to think in two languages at the same time. So it is considered to be a skill, and that's why you see, especially, there's a lot of emphasis in learning a lot of languages. And so when you go to school, you have German, French, Spanish, especially Spanish in this part of the world, that you end up learning. So there are various ways to get to know each person. One of these ways is through speech. You can get to know other people different ways, but one of the means is through the speech. Each person introduces his own personality when this person talks. Our speaking clearly expresses our inner purity or wickedness. Right away, as soon as you open your tongue, as soon as you open your mouth and you say something, it could either sprout out that which is pure or that which is wicked. Right away from the speech of individual, you're able to understand the purity of the individual or the wickedness of that individual. One can tell whether you are a good person or a corrupt man. That's why our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, said, Al-mar'u makhbu'un tahta lisanihi. He said, a man is hidden under his tongue. Is hidden under his tongue. Unless you speak or say something, you will not be recognized. You will not be known. Your good or bad characteristics will not be known by anyone. That's why Imam said, Al-mar'u makhbu'un. The tongue will unveil the curtain and display our real character. And that is what this tongue does. And that's why our Imam is counting it to be after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights, after the rights of the nafs. The third thing the Imam counts is the rights of this tongue. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the nature of the verbal sins, if you look at it, Amirul Mu'mineen in this regard has many sayings. And we can go through Nahj al-Balagha, we can go through Ghurarul Hikam, and there are tremendous amount of sayings that Amirul Mu'mineen has in regards to this tongue. But every single saying that Imam has just shows you That yes, it's not kalam haq, it's not kalam Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever Amirul Mu'mineen is saying is basically a commentary of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already said in Quran Majid. We see that every single verse of Quran is considered to be a miracle. We say, yeah, definitely it is a miracle. When the words of the Ma'asumeen seem like miracle to us, let alone the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, definitely is a miracle. We see that Amirul Mu'mineen in one sentence, how beautifully he puts this tongue. He says, Jirmuhu saghirun wa jurmuhu thaqilun. He used three words. Basically, jirm and jurm are coming from the same root. Jirmuhu saghirun wa jurmuhu thaqilun. Jirm is referring towards the construction of this tongue. What is it made of? He said, its mass, jirm is the mass, it is small, it's saghir. Wa jurmuhu, but the corruption or the sin that is caused by this tongue, kabirun, or he says over here, thaqilun, it's great. He uses two words only, but he explains a great deal, and you can talk about this saying of Amirul Mu'mineen. It's so easy to remember. I'm sure everybody can remember it over here today. That jirmuhu saghirun wa jurmuhu thaqilun. Just keep on reminding ourselves about this tongue. That jirm, the sakht, and the creation of this tongue, it's so small. How much room does it take? It doesn't take that much room. But jurmuhu, its sin and the crime that could be committed with this tongue is saqilun. It is indeed great. This wise saying clearly states how our little tongue, and Imam is referring towards the literal meaning of the little tongue. Is not talking about figuratively. Definitely there's a lot that could be done by the tongue. Literally speaking, the little tongue can be used to create great sins. Each of the body parts that God has given us has a specific characteristic and purpose. Some have certain limitations. For instance, the eye can only see different colors. The ears can only hear the sounds. The hands can only feel through touching. However, tongue has a wide range of application, extending from wickedness and corruption to goodness and prosperity. If used in a good sense, it can lead to human prosperity, and if it's used in an evil way, it can be the biggest means by which Satan can misguide us. Over here, I wanted to talk about very briefly how the effects of the tongue on social improvement or the effects of this tongue on the social corruption could be very, very easy. If you want to improve something, if a speaker has the ability to deliver the message and he's influential, there are different types of speeches. One is the influential speech. One is just the informative. You want to give information to another individual. When you're giving the information, obviously your means is not to have any sort of effect or influence on this individual. But when you give influential speeches, you want to convince the audience. And a person, if he's influential and has a way of getting into the minds of the people and deliver the message, then even the right could be shown as wrong. And the wrong and batil can be seen as that which is reality. And that is the, I don't want to call the beauty of the tongue. That is the utilization of this tongue that can it be used for. A fluent speaker can direct the human society toward noble characteristics and human values. Likewise, he can lead the society towards moral and spiritual decay and corruption as well. He can easily agitate the still nation and excite them to move and change their lives by causing inqilab, or direct the aroused feelings of a society towards calmness and pacification. For example, one example, inshallah, we'll conclude with that when Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam was martyred in the mihrab, Ibn Muljim struck Amirul Mu'mineen. The news spread, and it spread into far distances, all the way to Sham the news reached. And when people heard that Amirul Mu'mineen was struck by a sword while praying, you know what people thought? They didn't think of Amirul Mu'mineen dying. Rather, what they were thinking that, Ali used to pray. What was he doing in the masjid? Why did he get killed in the masjid? What was he doing in the masjid? And that is all due to the influence by the speeches delivered against Amirul Mu'mineen. For 25 years from the pulpit in Sham, the message was against Ahlul Bayt. The message was against Amirul Mu'mineen, to show that Amirul Mu'mineen was a person who had nothing to do with namaz. Someone who was a very, God forbid, evil man. And therefore, this was the people's reaction when they heard the news that Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed in Mihrab. He said, what was he doing? Forget about him being killed. What was he doing in namaz? What was he doing in the masjid? So we see that this is how one can brainwash easily using this tongue. And when we are talking about Sham, this is the time when the Asiran-e Karbala, this is the time when those captives of Karbala are now entering the valley of Sham. This is when the month of Safar begins. Really, this is when the historians mention that this qafila, this caravan along its way, taking the path from Kufa towards the Sham, now they are entering the city of Sham. But before they can enter, they're made to wait outside of the city limits. For 3 days, it is mentioned that they stayed outside and they were not allowed to enter the city. And the reason that was explained is because the city is now being decorated. People are getting ready for festivities. And when asked, a person by the name Sahal ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, who was a companion of Rasulullah, he was coming his way back from Makkah and Medina after having performed Hajj, because Karbala, this event took place in Muharram, and just the previous month was the month of Hajj. And on his way back, when he entered into Sham from Baytul Maqdas, he sees that, the city is decorated. People are enjoying themselves, and seems like there's some sort of occasion or festival that they're celebrating. Right away, he asks some people who were sitting there and talking as to what is the occasion. And one explained that the caravan of the captives was killed in Karbala, and now they're entering into the Sham, in the city of Sham. Right away, he asks, who are these people? And why are we excited? Is there a new holiday or is there a new festival that is marked? He said, no, there's a group of people who stood up against Amir al-Mu'mineen, and now they were killed. And because of that, they're now being entered into Sham. Right away, he asked, who are these people? He said, it is a person by the name Hussein who was killed by the armies of Ibn Sa'd and by the armies orders of Ibn Ziyad, and now his captives are being brought into the city of Sham. He said, who is this Hussein? He said, Hussein ibn Ali, or Hussein ibn Fatima, or Hussein, the son of Rasulullah. This is when Sa'd, who was also a Sahabi of Rasulullah, who had seen Imam Hussein when he was very young, he comes and he asks, which gate are they being entered from? He's told and he's directed towards the gate, which is known as Babu Sa'ad. He rushes towards the Bab, he rushes towards the gate, and only to his surprise that he sees that the spears where the heads of the shuhada were being held are brought in. He sees the ladies without any veils on their heads, covering their heads, are being brought in onto the horses and the camels. And all can Sa'ad do is look down so that he does not look at the women without their heads being covered. All he does, he goes towards this little girl known as Sakina. He comes towards her and he says, I'm a Sahabi of your grandfather. Let me know if there's anything that I can do for you. Sakina is told to be only 4 years old, not more than that. But look at the hikmat of Janab Sakina. She says, if you are really the Sahabi of Rasulullah, if you can do something for us, tell these people to move the spears ahead with the head, so that people are busy looking at the heads, and therefore they do not look at the heads which are uncovered by the ladies. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyamun qalbin yanqalibun. Barallah हमारी से बात कबूल फरमा, हम गुनाहगार हैं, हमारे गुनाहों से दरगुजर फरमा, हमें अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम के नक्श कदम चलने की तौफीक अता फरमा, हमारे इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा, हमें उनके आवान व अंसार में शुमार कर। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम।